Hey guys, today I want to take a look at a knife that's growing in popularity each and every day, and that is the Karambit. Now the Karambit is one of the three things that I carry as EDC for self-defense. I'll talk about the other two here in a minute. But this knife is a very, very good knife for self-defense. But as Cali and Arnaz and Filipino martial arts continue to grow in popularity, you see a lot of people that are starting to carry these, a lot of people that carry them and handle them incorrectly, and a lot of people that say things like, oh, it's the best knife fighting knife ever created. And it's not. It's a terrible knife fighting knife. It is a great, fantastic self-defense knife, and I think it's important to know the difference. So a knife fight, that would be something where, I've got a knife, Bob's got a knife, we're gonna square off and we're agreeing to have this knife duel, right? So I know he has a knife, he knows I have a knife, and that is how we're approaching this knife fight. This is something you might see in competitions, like the Cold Steel Challenge is a great example, where they have a division of knife fighting that operates under those rules. But you don't see this if you look like FBI statistics of violent crime. This doesn't happen. And this doesn't happen for a lot of reasons. Number one is no matter how skilled you are and how unskilled your opponent is, this is going to put you in a situation where you're very likely to get injured. The skill does not really overcome that. Unfortunately, just because knives can be so dangerous and they can be wielded very violently and very crazily, that you can get very hurt even if you know what you're doing. So anyone, that is in this situation, they usually advise putting something in between yourself and the attacker, getting a weapon of longer reach, or running away, which is usually the best. If I was in a situation where Bob here was approaching me and he's got this knife out and he says, I'm gonna get you, well, what I see there is motive, means, and opportunity, right? So I'm gonna pull out something else that I carry as EDC for self-defense, and that's a 1911. And I'll fire some warning shots into the center mass there. I would not be thinking of pulling out my Karambit to try to neutralize this threat. If I can get away, I'm gonna get away. If I can't get away, that's why I have this, right? Let's take a look at the Karambit, how it's designed, how it's handled, and then we'll talk a little bit more about knife fighting versus self-defense and where it fits in. So here's a smattering of Karambit style knives that we'll take a look at, including this is a trainer knife from Cold Steel that we'll use a lot when we're showing on the bag and whatnot. The one that I showed in that clip there, this is from Fox Knives. I think Fox Knives make probably the best. They have a lot of ones that are even better than this one. That range in price, I mean, you can get one from them that I think goes all the way up to like $600. But what's nice about this one, this hook here is called an Emerson Wave, and I'll show you how that works later. But it has a nice grip. I think it has a good angle. And the other thing that's very important when you're working with one of these is you want to carry it in a position where the ring is up, okay? Versus this is a little cheapo one that I bought at a gas station. Just because I like to buy knives at gas stations. This one is spring assisted, so it'll open very quickly. Actually, it isn't too bad of a hand feel. Has a good curve there. One of the things, the name Karambit, what it actually means is it means claw, right? And you can kind of see where they get that name from. And the idea of that knife is you use it as if it was a claw in combat, and we'll kind of show what that looks like. But you can see that in the pocket between the Fox knife and the gas station knife, this would be carried ring down. That does not make this very quick or very accessible. This can be drawn very fast. This can beat in speed the draw of a fixed blade knife, because a fixed blade knife, assuming you have some kind of retention area that you have to do with, you can get this out every bit as fast, because as you pull it, that Emerson Wave, you just hook it on your pocket and it will open. So I like that a lot. Now, another one that I like is is this one here. It has a different style of opening. If I am not in a position where I can carry this one due to like what I'm wearing pocket wise or things like that, if I have to keep one in a pocket or in a vest pocket or something like that, I like this one, because this one I would be reaching into wherever, grab it like here, and then I throw that thumb down to get into this position. This one is a little bit different. The ring is very, very beefy. It's not as curved, but I like the deployment style, and I like to have this one because it gives me another option, another way in which I could carry a karambit, because I really do like a karambit for self-defense, but I'm not always wearing pants that play into carrying the fox knife. So this is my backup one, that I will, like, if I'm doing different stuff and it's going to be in a pocket, I like this one. Now, this one, I wanted to show this because it's the only example that I have laying around of a fixed karambit style knife. And I am saying karambit style because it's not a karambit. This one's by United Cutlery, which makes a lot of crap. I don't think I got this one at a gas station, but I might have. And you'll notice, what's that? It's another ring. We need to talk about why the ring exists and what it's for. And then when we do that, we'll see that, this doesn't really lend itself into a way to use it as a karambit very effectively. The other thing I want to talk about is it is double-edged, and that's why I wanted to show it. Now, karambit for self-defense, I think, really needs to be single-edged, because there's a lot of different ways that you can use to apply it, and there would be times in which you would want to use some force on that edge, and if this is sharp here, you would be cutting yourself. So there's a lot of manipulations and things that you can do with a karambit. This one is from Cold Steel. It's a trainer and has this ball on the end, so if you're training with a partner, you don't actually poke each other. What I want to do is I want to talk now just about the grip for the karambit. The ring, it can be used for a lot of different things. One of the things that you think about with the ring is weapon retention. So the idea that, in a self-defense situation, especially if you get hit, your instinct might be to open your hand, and that could disarm you. So having this ring allows you to help hold on and retain the weapon, but you don't put the weapon like this. Okay, that's the biggest mistake that you'll usually see with someone trying to use the karambit is here. And the reason for that is if you were to stab or cut or otherwise get your blade manipulated, you're just going to break your finger, and we don't want that. Okay, instead you keep it between these knuckles here, just like that. What's nice about the Cold Steel one is it's got this hand pad and it's got this thumb pad, and when you grab it naturally using those features, it's going to put you in that position, which is really nice. Cold Steel, their fixed blade one is, I think it's called the Tiger Claw, and I do actually have that one somewhere in this shop. If I come across it, I'll show that one on camera too. And it's very good. I just don't carry a fixed knife as EDC, so it doesn't do anything for me. It lives in here and probably opens the occasional box and whatnot. But when we're holding it like that, what that allows is I can get that finger out very quickly. And if I were to get stuck, my finger is just going to come out. You're not going to really be able to trap my finger in there very, very easily, which is good because I don't want to, be trying to use this as self-defense and then get stuck and have what is essentially my trigger finger, pretty important finger, mangled there. So we don't want that to happen. Now this grip, sometimes you'll hear this used as the advanced grip. When I learned it for knives, this was called a reverse grip, and having the thumb, having this line, what you're doing is you're aligning your knuckles in the way that your fist is strong to thrust and to punch, and that was what we were calling FMA, or Filipino martial arts grip. So like this. So that's going to give me power coming into this motion here, just like that, which is good because this can be used as a striking surface, as a knuckle. It can also be used to manipulate pressure points and things of that nature. Now, you can use the Karambit here. And this would be a traditional FMA grip, and you can put that pinky in, but you got to be very careful. Same thing that I'm over here, because it's very easy to get that pinky trapped. So if I am in this grip for some reason, I just leave my pinky out, and I would never use the Karambit like this, so it sort of becomes a non-issue. Because you know, the only time that you're using the Karambit with range is when you transition from that reverse grip into a grip like this. So you do like a spin out grip. Now, you're never going to do that, you know, purposely. That's kind of like a, oh shit, I need to do something maneuver. Although there is my favorite strike in all of martial arts actually incorporates using the Karambit like this. So I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, that is a little bit on the grip of the Karambit. Again, if you see a Karambit that has the clip opposite of the ring like that, that's not going to be very good for self-defense. Instead, you want that clip lined up here, and this little hook that's called an Emerson wave, and it is very good for an assist to open. Also, this little hook on the back can get you to open so you can get out like that. Again, that's not how I would draw the Karambit, but that is something that exists. And then this one here, I just really love this CRKT knife, just because it gives you a different way that you can get to a Karambit and have it. And I think it's very good. So if this appeals to you, this design, this one's really, really good. I'll try to put a link to both Fox and CRKT on there. I think this one will set you back about 100, and I think this one's around maybe 150 or 200. It is very nice. It is very nice. And they do have, like, that's their cheap one. You know, I do have one of their better ones laying around somewhere, probably with that cold steel one, but I like this one better. I think it looks cooler, and that's a very important thing, because the likelihood of, you know, you using it for self-defense is so low that I gravitate towards looking cool. So yeah, let's take a look now more at knife fighting and what knife fighting looks like. So back in 2011, I went down and competed in the Cold Steel Challenge for the first time. I did all the throwing events and all the fighting events, and that's actually something that apparently no one had ever done. So Lynn Thompson actually came over and told me how cool he thought that was and gave me some swag. So that was a pretty awesome moment. I did okay in the throwing events, largely in part to the fact that I got some last-minute tutelage by Jack Dagger and Anthony Dialones. And in the fighting events, I didn't do so hot. I won one match in sword fighting and one match in spear fighting, but lost everything out, including that bout in knife fighting there. Now, in the knife fighting, which unfortunately I don't have any video of, so this is a little bit of sword fighting here, I had never done anything like it before. My background was a little bit of fencing and some time spent in the SCA doing armored combat. So working with knives was kind of new to me, and it showed. The person that I paired off with in the first round actually ended up winning the knife fighting event that day. Now, what I find interesting is the very first point of our match went to me. What happened is I fainted a little. He tried to stab at me, and I was able to kind of get out of the way and come in and stab him in the upper chest, kind of throat region. It was a good point. The judge actually, when it landed, let out a little ooh type of noise. So it was solid. Now that guy that I fought had way more experience than me, had way more training than me, beat me very handedly the rest of that. That was my only point that I got off him. But if we were to have actually had knives and actually been in altercation on that day, I would have walked away and he wouldn't, despite our huge lapse disparity rather in the amount of training we had. So that's something that when we come to knife fighting, why it just doesn't look like that and it doesn't happen. You're only going to see it really in competition. So let's take a look now at what a knife fight would actually look like. Little different, right? In the knife fighting scenario, we've got people that know that they each have a knife. They're doing this range type of combat versus an actual knife altercation. He's not going to go in there. He's not going to know I have the knife. I'm going to come out of nowhere, probably not alone. I'm going to stab him as many times as I possibly can and get out of there before he even can react. You know, that's how knife situations happen. That's what violent crime looks like. Think much more Oz than extraction, right? Prison shank is more likely what would be encountered versus, you know, a knife versus knife dueling type situation. Now, for knife fighting, if we were looking for a knife fighting knife, something that has a lot of range would be where we'd probably gravitate. So something like the Crocodile Dundee Bowie, right? This is a knife. You know, this would give me a lot of range. The two most devastating things you can do with a knife, the first one is stab. So, you know, having this point that comes down where I can get a lot of weight behind that and drive that in, that's going to be the most damaging thing you can do. The second most damaging thing you can do is chop or hack, right? Think of that as a stab with the blade. So I've got, what I need for that is a big blade with a lot of weight. So, you know, I'm coming in, I'm hitting here, I'm hitting here. Anything that I connect with is probably going to do a lot of damage and end that altercation. That is, you know, one style. The other style that I think about when I think about that, I want to show off another cold steel one here, is the Arkansas toothpick, right? So this one not as good maybe as the hacking, doesn't have as much of the weight, but it's got a better tip for thrusting in, for stabbing into the opponent. Now, both of those are very, very large, and you think about you know, them as almost being like mini swords. As a matter of fact, if you've got a knife, that's what I want. I want a sword. But if you think about, like, you know, some military knives, like the Marine Corps K-bar, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's a pretty large blade. It's designed, you know, that it stab and it can chop. You know, here's another version kind of the same thing. You know, those are what we're gonna think of when we think of a self-defense knife. Now, what are the other things knives can do? So they can stab and they can hack, right? So that's using the tip to thrust in, or that's using the side to thrust in. Well, the other thing that they can do is they can slash, right? So taking the knife and taking the blade and dragging it across the opponent, right? That's, you know, a traditional kind of cutting type motion. That's often paired with, I got in here, I would go here. So combine those two motions. But that's the next thing. These slashes can be very damaging, but they're not going to be fight ending. You know, when you'll see, you know, all the time, like someone got cut like 37 times, and then the other guy got stabbed once. Well, who's the dead guy? It's the guy that got stabbed, right? So slashing is usually to set up something else, and that's why we don't see, you know, like our knife altercation be like, we see it like that, right? That's the difference. The other thing that a knife can do is it can rip, it can tear. That's where we get the point, and we're dragging the point in. Well, there aren't many knives that are designed to damage there. But this is one of the areas where the Karambit really excels. And let me show you some ways that can be very useful for self-defense. So Karambit, again, it means claw. And if we think about our hands as weapons and how we use our hands in a martial arts setting, we're often using one hand to redirect and then the other hand to strike. One hand to kind of chop, to trap, one hand to strike, right? We see those movements a lot, you know, Ip Man, you know, kind of Wing Chun, that whole thing is sort of what they're doing there. So when we think about our hand as a claw, this is the same function as the Karambit. I could have it here. I could say this is one type of Karambit, this is another type, this is another type, but I'm using those hooks to come in and work. Now the Karambit actually does the same thing, but now I've incorporated a blade. So if I'm coming in and I'm this is very sharp and I don't want to mess this guy up, but I'm coming in and I'm getting in, I can use that as the same way I would as a trap or a hook that sets myself up for something more damaging. If you're in a self-defense situation, a lot of times you're covering and you're just looking for these areas to come in, and the karambit can actually really work well from that position. It does that thing that I said most knives don't do well, and that's rip and tear, okay? If I am coming in and I'm trapping or I'm doing everything else, or just the movement of your body, if I get my little point into you somewhere and you move, it rips a much bigger hole, okay? And that's where the karambit really excels. So if I can get that tip in anywhere, your motion or my motion is gonna rip a bigger hole. And that's something that it can excel at. And what you're doing in a self-defense type situation, you're looking for, sure, the opportunity to end if you can, but you're also looking to create an opportunity to get away. If I can get, something in that's pretty devastating and then get away, I might not be able to outrun Bob here because he's a big athletic guy and I'm in my 40s with bad knees. But if I get a good rip into his arm, he might not want to chase me down. He might want to seek some medical attention instead. So that's where this knife really comes in. Also in a situation where there's multiple attackers, where I'm just trying to cover up and use kind of like Kisi skills to get around, this knife works really well. It's used basically up, down here, right? Up, side here, or diagonal there, right? You can just really do a lot of damage just with these basic motions. Any of these line motions, just forward and back, is going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to create some big holes no matter where you land it. Again, keeping that finger not here, right? That's just going to make it where I'm going to get it in and then I'm going to get my finger broke. But keeping it in a way where I'm not going to get caught, or if I do start to get caught, I can get out of there really quick. Let me grab a trainer and I'll show you some of the things I'm talking about here. So the karambit is, again, it's made for close range here. If I had more range, that's when I'm thinking of using a different weapon, a ranged weapon. So the thought is he's already got me here. Well, if I'm inside in this range, this is really where this karambit works well, because I'm gonna get it in, and again, so I'm coming one line, two line. Look at that. Now I've hooked, okay? I can use that hook to pivot and come in, and then as I'm pushing here, that's a rip, right? We're probably done at that point. I could come in here. Now I'm hooking in underneath the armpit. So that first one, that's horizontal, right? Now I'm vertical. I'm coming in here. If I pass the arm, that's great. I'm here. I could do the same thing, coming in with horizontal, or I could move low, work to the back, looking to exit, or I can do that as a diagonal. So instead of coming into the armpit here, I'm coming in here. Again, I'm ripping up, okay? If I'm coming here and pushing at the same time, I'm taking a chunk of meat. Now I just replace right there. Now I've got a hook here, Anywhere that I'm going, I can hook and move, and if my tip finds you, I can rip on the way out. Very effective at close range, very hard to deal with. Most of the disarming type movements, if you attempted against the karambit in this style of grip, you're gonna end up cutting yourself. Another thing that's kind of cool, I said that this is more of an oh shit position, right? One of the things that can happen is if I were to go to grab mine, and as I showed you, mine can be drawn very, very quickly, and he's trying to get me from a weapon retention. Well, if I switch it up here, look at that. Now I've got a grab there, and this is where I was talking about I can put pressure on that back one. Now I've got a cut here. I could drive that forward, then come back in. Now I'm back into those horizontal strikes here. A lot of different things that you can do. My favorite karambit strike, and Bob doesn't have legs, so unfortunately you'll just have to envision that I could flip up to this position here between the legs, strike, and use that rip to the groin. That is my favorite technique in all of knife stuff that I've ever been shown. No one ever told me it had a cool name, so I just think of it as the nut splitter versus the nut cracker there. But yeah, that's probably going to end the altercation. He's not gonna come after me again over there. Let's take a look at that Emerson Wave and how that knife exits the pocket at speed with open. All right, so first I want to show you this tie light by Cold Steel. This is what I used to carry as a self-defense carry knife, because I thought something that, you know, was made for stabbing, because we said stabbing is the best, most effective thing you could do, makes the most sense to carry. But then I found in a self-defense situation, the range that is happening at, having that extra claw, that karambit, actually makes more sense and would be more effective. But I do want to show you the pocket-assisted opening with this tie light. So if you're in the carry position, what's happening is you're coming in, you're finding the end of your pocket, and you're opening it just like that. Very fast, goes right into your stabbing motion. However, in a fumbly self-defense type situation, you might not get it to fully open. It might come out like here. That little hiccup could be, you know, the difference between you getting out or not. So that's something that I think the Emerson Wave is really a better opening style. And that's this little hook right up here, this guy. That's the Emerson Wave. What's going to happen there, how we open that, is we're going to turn the knife 90 degrees. And as we pull it out, it opens against our pocket. It's always going to open against your pocket, assuming you have a relatively tight pocket. So wearing jeans pocket, and that's why I showed you that CRKT knife. If I'm wearing, you know, baggy shorts or something like that, I don't carry this because it's not going to be as effective. I want something I'm going to reach in and fully grab and open with my thumb. So that Emerson, even if I'm coming in at a relatively, you know, frantic motion, it's always going to open. I showed you that I can incorporate this as a trap if someone's trying to, you know, pin me in here to come in. Otherwise, I transition right into my fighting grip. Again, this is by Fox Knives. I think they make the best folding karambit. This one is kind of their budget one, but it's still not cheap. I got it just because I like the white black. I think it just looks really slick. Now, the other thing that we talked about is having that ring up. So you want to make sure that your ring is up. That way you can grab and you can open. I didn't open it there, of course. Versus this is the gas station. If I come in here, this is just like any other folder, and this is not going to get me, even with that spring assist, to a position where I'm in my fighting grip to defend myself very quickly. So that is very, very important. So if you're getting a budget karambit from a gas station, you can, that's fine. Just make sure that you're going to be able to pull it quickly. Or you can go with a fixed. Cold Steel does make the Tiger Claw. They also make one called the Double Agent that I don't advise, and the Double Agent looks like this one from United Cutlery. Again, I don't like the double bladedness because it disallows me from using it to trap and manipulate and pin. But getting it in this position, this is trapping my pinky. I don't like that, right? I can't really, there's no benefit of having this extra ring. It's not gonna help me anywhere. It's not comfortable to use. I don't think there's anything wrong with a fixed knife. I think they're a little bit more awkward to carry, which is why I like pocket knives and folders better. They can be very, very fast, but again, that Emerson Wave, like, yeah, it's micro milliseconds saying a fixed knife is faster. And honestly, I bet it beat most fixed knives out of the sheath just from the friction of the sheath. So it is a very, very good tactical folding knife there. So yeah, let's reconvene. So the karambit, very good for self-defense with its ability to hook, you know, manipulate and move our attacker, right? But not a good knife fighting knife. If I'm having to get in on you and you know I've got a knife and I know you've got a knife, I want to do Crocodile Dundee. I want a knife that's very, very big. And if I can't have one like that, I really don't want to be there in the first place. I'd like to run away or get something that's bigger, or, you know, change the game entirely, right? The Karambit does not excel at stabbing, which is something that you would want if you were the bad guy and attacking somebody, but it does really excel at moving quickly, moving your opponent, creating openings. If you had multiple people that were trying to jump on you and attack you, you could use that Karambit to create some openings to get away. And that's ultimately what you want in a self-defense knife, is something that will create openings so you can get out of the scenario, and something that can be very devastating, and that ripping and tearing can be very, very devastating to an attacker or groups of attackers. Now, the other thing that we wanted to consider about is something that you can access quickly. So having that Emerson wave, where just drawing the Karambit will put it both into your fighting grip and open the blade very, very quickly, is something that you want. But again, this is not my first line of defense for self-defense. It's something that I carry as a backup, and I do think the Karambit is cool, and that is part of it. I said I carry 3 things. I showed you 2. The other one is this right here. A very bright flashlight is probably my number 1 go-to in any situation here. It's nice because it's very useful. I use it more than anything else in my EDC, other than like my car keys and my wallet, right? But this, if someone was coming up and they're coming up and putting hands on you, just getting that right in the eyeballs, can't allow you to land, can't allow you to get out or to change the game and get something else on board. So a flashlight, Karambit, 1911 were the things I was referencing earlier, so I didn't want to leave you hanging there. This video is already very, very long. I'm posting a lot of knife-related videos right now. I just really wanted to do this Karambit one because Karambit is just getting so popular, and I think there's just a lot of bad Karambits and bad technique out there. So I hope this video, kind of showed you some things that I find useful in them, and showed you some different ways to think about them and what they're for. So great for self-defense, fucking shitty for knife fighting.